Welcome everyone to the next edition of Unscripted and Unstoppable. I am your host, Laureen Quick. This podcast is a space for honest conversation around what it means to navigate change, go through identity shifts, deal with relationships, and become more fully ourselves, especially in the second half of life. And this month, we are exploring the theme of expression, letting what's true take form. We're not just thinking about change, but we're working to understand what keeps us from expressing what actually is true for us in the first place. And today's conversation goes right to the heart of that. So many women know what they want to do, and still, yet, they don't do it. Not because they're not intelligent, not because they lack discipline, and often not because they don't know what the next step is. Rather, something inside keeps interrupting the movement forward. My guest today is Sandra Lee, an inner critic specialist, a Caltech-trained scientist, and the creator of The Spectrum of Anger. For nearly 40 years, Sandra has helped others understand the deep patterns beneath their hesitation, emotional suppression, and self doubt so that they can stop getting in their own way, trust themselves again, and lead with greater confidence and clarity in their lives. And today we're going to be exploring not only what happens in that gap between knowing and doing, but why that pattern may actually make more sense to us than we think it should. And Sandra, I am so happy to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to jump right in and start with my first question today. And that is, so many women know what they want to do, but they are not doing it. From your perspective, what is actually happening in that gap?
What a powerful question that is, because we really stop ourselves, don't we?
Mhm.
And what's stopping us is the thoughts and emotions in our heads. It's not something external to us. It's not somebody else. It's not what's going on in the world. Really, what stops us from taking the actions that we really want to take, we need to take, it's all internal. And thinking that I can fix it by doing this. If I go by that, if I take this course, even if I do this healing, it'll just fix it. It's something that stops us all of the time. And it leads to such feelings of helplessness and overwhelm. And this isn't possible for me that we get stuck in.
Okay, so it's in our head. It's not, we think it's external. We want to blame everything else around us, but really it's what our thought processes are that are limiting us from moving forward, taking
But
it.
it's different from a doctor saying it's all in your head. It's
Hmm.
different from that, right? When a
Explain.
doctor, yeah, when a doctor says, you have this symptom, you have this issue, and there is something, but a doctor says, oh, there's nothing real. It's all in your head. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
talking about, right? This is what are the beliefs that I have in my mind about what's possible for me, what's possible for me in life, what I can and can't do. So, how many people have, and it's like, I don't know how to do that. Nobody listens to me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm helpless, right? Those are the kinds of conversations that I'm talking about.
Great. And that's the kind of conversation I want to talk about today. So, yes, the doctor situation is more of a dismissive thing.
Hmm.
Whereas this conversation really is around there actually are thought patterns that are preventing you from moving forward.
Yeah.
The way you think matters. And so,
Absolutely. The way you think matters every second of the day.
yes, it does. So, can you take us a little further into the theory about the origin of this pattern, how it happened for us?
Let me give you a little bit of background first so that this makes sense. I have been doing hands-on bodywork massage for almost 40 years. And I saw from working with people that there were certain areas where almost everybody holds, almost everyone has tension.
Mhm.
And what really struck me about that was that it's here where the breastbone, the sternum.
Hmm.
And what I saw was people were not breathing. Now, obviously, you physically need to be breathing, otherwise, you wouldn't be alive. But we under breathe, we hold our breath. So it's like, and what I saw physically was what I just showed, right? That it's like physically the sternum gets pressed down and that the person starts curling up. And when I first saw that, it's like, what's going on here? And when I realized that this was suppression of breathing, and I looked at when did this begin? And so this is something I don't normally talk about. I'm really excited to share this with you. I look at this as being the origin of what I call the spectrum of anger and this pattern we have of suppressing ourselves. So you're in utero before you're born, your mother's
Mhm.
pregnant, and you're nice and warm and cozy. You're connected to your mother, and everything you need is provided for you instantaneously. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to go anywhere. Nobody has to do anything. Everything you need comes to you automatically. So that's how we begin life. And then there's this crazy time. Everything's really intense. All sorts of stuff is happening. There's pressure, all this chaos. There might be extraordinary circumstances for some people in that, but it's a very intense time. And then you pop out and you are cold. It's bright. It's loud. And you are separate from your mother for the first time ever. And you have this experience. It's like, ah, I'm alone. This is the origin of that feeling of I'm separate, I'm alone.
Hmm.
And when you need something, you cry to get it, but they don't understand you. It's like nobody hears me. Nobody understands me. Nobody sees me. Ah! And it's this you know what a baby's like. They're crying because they're upset. And they don't feel like they're heard. They went from having all of their needs being met instantaneously and being one to being separate and nobody hears me. I can't get what I need. So it's the foundation of this experience that I have seen pretty universally as I have worked with people with the things that stop them. Nobody sees me. Nobody hears me. I can't ask for what I want. I'm getting what I need and I'm separate and I'm alone.
Mhm.
That's the foundation of every human being's life.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's kind of depressing.
Yes, but
But
really,
it's
when we
true.
look at it this, yeah, it is. This is what it means to be human. And I call this the foundational separation wound. This is
Okay.
something that every human experiences. Now, in the times of like water births and home births, hopefully there's not so much physical separation as there used to be. But for a lot
Mhm.
of people, when we were born, we were separated, in a nursery someplace else, in an incubator, not allowed to be connected to the mother right there at the beginning. Now, hopefully, at least some practices have the baby go right on the mother right away. So at least that physical separation is shorter, right? There's less trauma induced in birth. But sometimes still, like doctors schedule cesareans at their convenience rather than waiting for the time when the baby's ready. So
Yeah.
I call this pretty universal experience the foundational separation wound.
This is causing me a lot of thought. One of the things I remember from my own birth, ha ha ha, I can remember back that far. What I know from my own birth is my mother was actually knocked out. She was
Hmm.
drugged unconscious while I was being born. So I've never really considered the impact of that. Although my mother often said to me as I was growing up, sometimes I think you are the way you are because of the way you were born.
Hmm.
So that is a new insight for me to reflect on and think about after this podcast session. And then at the same time, my daughter has a 2-year-old and she is about to give birth to her second child, and thinking a lot about how in their situation, my son-in-law insisted that he be present 24/7 for like the first 48 hours. They never left their son alone. And
Mm,
they won't do it for this child either. They're always a unit together
yes.
with the child. And so far, it's been working really well with my grandson. He seems to be a thriving 2-year-old. So yes, and then to layer at another level, Sandra, women in their 50s and 60s, they go through a huge separation as well during this time in their life. Their children, if they have them, they grow up and they go on and live their own lives. Sometimes their husbands pass away, they get divorced, they find themselves very alone. And I think listening to what you just shared, that this is really an important thing to know, because it reminds us of our
Hmm.
condition, of our situation, and can really create a lot of anxiety and confusion. So this is fascinating. And the one other thing I will tell you, giving birth myself to my own children, I remember the doctor always saying people stop breathing when they are in fear. So you have to breathe when you're having this baby. And that's why we go through all the Lamaze classes and teach us how to breathe, because our body will just stop to breathe. So if we live a life that's fear-based, we also don't breathe as deeply as well as we might if we were more comforted and calmed by our world versus feeling threatened by it. So
Yes.
all of this makes total sense.
So there are many more layers to come in this. Okay. So this foundational separation in his wound creates what I call a fracture at the beginning of life.
Mhm.
Hopefully, now there are more and more people who are having conscious, intentional births, like you were talking about with your family, where there is as little separation as possible, as much connection, but you still have that experience of shock and some separation and all the things that happen. Okay. So everyone starts with this initial fracture, this separation that occurs, however intense it is. Okay.
Mhm.
Then everything else in life gets built on top of it.
Yeah, I
So
can
what
see.
happens when I take a building and I fracture the foundation at the beginning and then I build on top of it? The structure built on top of the fracture it's unstable. It's fractured. Okay.
Mhm.
So then comes this next piece. So the baby's out, and when a baby comes out, they are 100% self expressed. They are being themselves. They are loved. They are everything. They are alive. They are making noise. All of these things that's natural when a baby comes out. Okay. So this is a theory that I have that the first time the mother asks the baby, or the father is asked the baby to hush, stop crying. It's with loving intention. They want the baby to be happy and comfortable, but they say, hush, it's okay. Much less everything that's more intense than that, right? When a baby is crying and crying, blah, 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 a mother is understandably upset, and that be quiet is a little bit more harsh. Okay. So for a baby, that connection to the mother, to the parents, is life and death. They absolutely need their parents' love and care and nourishment to survive.
Mhm.
Okay. So when the mother very lovingly and intentionally says, "Oh, it's okay, stop crying," what does the baby have to do to be able to suppress that cry? because they think my mother needs me to be quiet and stop crying. What do I have to do? And they stop themselves from crying. How do they do that? The only way a baby has to stop crying is to physically restrain it.
Hmm.
And what I saw in working with people hands on is that that happens here, that
Mm-hmm.
they use their muscles to physically hold their self expression in. And this is instinctive, this is survival, this is what they have to do to be able to maintain the connection with the mother. Now, logically, we as adults, it's like, well, that's not really true, right? The baby's going to be taken care of by the mother, but the baby doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
The baby learns on a very instinctive primal level, in order to continue to get the love and care I need to stop crying at all costs. And so they begin this pattern of suppressing their breathing, physically restraining it with muscle tension. And every time thereafter, they are asked to stop crying, if they are asked to stop expressing themselves, who do you think you are? You don't know what you're doing. I don't have time for you. You can't have what you want. Every time we do that, we suppress our self-expression and we physically restrain it.
Yep.
And all of this suppression that begins way back then, I mean, this could be day one of life, day two of life, right? From the very beginning, we learn to suppress our self expression by physically storing it in the body. We do it with muscle tension. Okay. So that's the very beginning of the pattern. All the rest of life, when I have to not speak my mind, I can't ask for what I want. Nobody is listening to me. All these things that started way back at the moment of birth, right? We
Mm-hmm.
learn to physically restrain it and to store it in the body.
So at 67 years of age, I've got quite a lot of that stored up.
We all do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we suppress with this tension, we're storing all of this stuff in the body. And over time, it builds up and it leads to pain, dis-ease,
Mm-hmm.
all of the physical things that we have going on. And for the most part, people are not aware of it.
Absolutely. Not a clue.
And when we become aware of it, which this podcast, Laureen, is going to make a lot of people, oh, I never thought of that before.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people feel like nobody hears me? Nobody sees me. I can't ask for what I want. That's a repetition over the course of life of this same pattern.
Well, and as women, we've been feeling that way most of our lives because we have centered ourselves in general, not all of us, but many of us have centered ourselves as sort of the servant, the one that takes care of everyone else versus getting ourselves taken care of.
Now, let's look at where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, early in life, I need to have my parents stay with me, take care of me, nurture me, hold me. What do I have to do to get that? I have to do what that person says. I have to take care of that person. I need that person to be happy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And in some households where there is violence and, there's all sorts of other stuff, there's all sorts of suppression that happens because of that. I can't make noise. Oh, if I do this, I get scolded, I get spanked. All these things lead to the people pleasing behavior that so many people have, women in particular, because for women, it's culturally reinforced. Okay. So we learn have to take care of other people, and that's what I have to do to have this world be survivable and as predictable as possible so that I can get my needs met as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. And we also begin to equate that as love.
Oh, yes.
And then as the children disappear, as the spouse potentially disappears, we start to feel like, well, does anyone even love me?
Yes.
Yeah,
And again, the roots of that go all the way back to
birth.
the beginning.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about we find ourselves in this position, right? We're elderly now, okay? And like you said, our children are gone because they're grown up or they're doing their thing, or, and my spouse is gone. And suddenly I find myself alone, actually, legitimately, partially or completely alone. Hopefully, I have some
Mhm.
friends, hopefully, there are people with me, but sometimes people really are truly alone.
Yes.
And the all of the history of this that goes all the way back to the beginning of life, if I haven't resolved that history, if I haven't healed myself, if totally unconsciously I am still feeling the pain from birth, from not being able to be self expressed, not being able to get my needs met, nobody sees me, nobody hears me, all the way back to the beginning, every instance of it in current time is more intense because of all of that unresolved history.
Mhm.
Okay. I think of it as like all of this unresolved stuff, everything that's been unresolved in my life, it's like kindling. And I have this big, like, vat full of unresolved content that's in front of me that I interact with my world with, right? And when somebody says something that triggers me or somebody says something that's mean, it's like it hits the kindling and it flames up and I get upset,
Mhm.
leading to out of proportion reactions. Somebody says a little thing, and if it triggers me, you get a huge reaction, and the person says, well, what did I say? What happened? I only said this little thing, and yet you got all upset.
Yeah.
And of course, that happens to us on on the other side too. We're talking to somebody. We don't mean anything big about it. We say something and then they freak out. It's like, whoa, what happened? All
Yeah.
I said was, and you got so upset. Why did that happen? Right? Because we think I say something and the person responds in real time like an adult. I'm an adult, you're an adult, and we're having a conversation, right? And we expect the other person to be like an adult and for me to be like an adult. When really everybody is a young child with unresolved content coming to a conversation wearing an adult suit. Okay, so we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, both thinking the other person is going to be and behave like an adult, thinking they're going to behave like an adult themselves, having a conversation that triggers both people because we have all this unresolved stuff. So everybody's running around with this bin full of kindling in front of them, everything that's unresolved in my life. Something happens, triggers it, and all this out of proportion reaction happens.
Yes. And so, to me, obviously, self-awareness and self-healing becomes important. I know you have talked about the spectrum of anger as, I think, a way to manage this or to
Hmm.
understand and deal with
Yeah.
it. Can you talk more, Sandra, about that?
Yes. So in our world, anger has a bad reputation. If we think about back in that childhood, if you had somebody in your family that was explosively angry and violent, it's like, oh, anger is dangerous. Anger is bad. I have to avoid it. Okay. And then you have a lot of people like me who grew up where expressing anger was not okay. And I was told in no uncertain terms, it's like, no. And I learned to suppress my emotions. So we learned that anger is bad, can't feel that. And working with people therapeutically for a long time, I have found that so many people don't know how to feel anger. They can't. It's not allowed to them by their childhood experience. So they don't know how to experience it. So anger is looked at as being bad. I am on a mission to reframe our experience of anger. So there's a spectrum of anger, and all of the uncomfortable emotions are on this spectrum. Everything from worried, I don't know what I'm doing. Do people like me? How do I look in this dress? All of those low scale, normal thoughts and concerns that people have, all the way to rage, terror, and everything uncomfortable in between. Okay. I call that the spectrum of anger. What if the spectrum of anger and all of these uncomfortable emotions are actually normal? We're supposed to be able to feel all of them. What happens when we have anger that there's something going on in the world that shouldn't be that way? Like, there's a lot of that going on in the world right now. There's a lot of craziness, insanity in the world. And us normal people are like, you know what? This isn't the way it's supposed to be. We should all get along. We should all be listened to. We should all get our needs met. The government should listen to us. The corporations should take care of us. That's the way it's supposed to be in our minds, right? But
Mhm.
that's not what the world is giving us. So we say, there's something wrong with that. So we understandably have anger. Anger is an emotion that has an important need in the world. If we didn't have anger, nothing would ever change. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That is truth right there.
Yes, we need to allow ourselves to have real, understandable, make sense anger and then do something about what's happening in our world. Most of what we feel like we can control is our own personal sphere. And there are a lot of people that say, you know what? What's going out there is a problem, and I need to do something about it, leading to all of the violent, chaotic, crazy things that are happening in the world. People says, "Oh, this is wrong. I need to go like do something crazy," leading to shootings and bombings and fires and explosions and war that is
Yeah.
going on in the world. So in my opinion, think that this is happening because we have all stuffed all of these negative emotions and all of this unresolved stuff is here trying to get out. So, what if everything on the spectrum of emotions, including anger, is normal? And we are allowed to feel it, express it, get our needs met around it, then it doesn't have to get stuffed. So if everyone were able to, if they have these upsets, right, to speak with the person who can do something about it, speak with the person in our family, for example, right? Instead of learning, I have to suppress how I feel, how do I communicate with the other person who needs to hear this so that we can work through it and come to a solution that works for everybody? When we can express our emotions, feel them, and then get our needs met so nobody has to have their emotions be stuffed, anger and everything else. Then all of us, what would happen if we were able to be fully self expressed, be able to
Oh my God.
communicate how we feel, what we need, and to communicate with people so that we actually get what we need?
I listen to all of that and I think what a beautiful world it would be. At the same time, it's like, oh, look at how damaged we all are and how much work that takes. And of course, the first place we start is with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
beginning to first just say that this is normal, this is okay, versus this is wrong and I have to change it or fix it or continue to push it down inside me. But rather,
Mm-hmm.
let me start expressing my anger. However, you got to know how to do that too, right? Otherwise, you just create more anger for
Yes.
everyone. Yeah.
Yes. So this is where healing comes into play,
Mm-hmm. So tell
right?
me more.
And these things, all of this stuff that we've been talking about that happened earlier in life, for most people, for the most part, they are not aware that that is what's controlling their behavior now.
Mhm.
They're just living today, getting tossed around by the situations in the world and probably feeling out of control and helpless. And I can't do anything about this. And maybe it's like, why do I get so upset? And they might be giving themselves a hard time for it, but they don't know what to do. All of that stuff that happened in the past is mostly unconscious.
Mhm.
I am not consciously aware of what is causing my behavior. I do neurolinguistic programming, and in NLP, we talk about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. The conscious mind is what we know, what we say, the goals and intentions we have, the things that we are consciously aware of. And I might have an intention, okay, I am going to be, calm and centered and balanced, and I need to talk to somebody. I might have that conscious intention. But there's all this other stuff that's in my past that we've been talking about that's unconscious. So in NLP, we say that there's the conscious mind that sets the intentions. The unconscious mind is what manifests what happens, it attracts things to you, but we don't know
Mhm.
what it is. So if I say, okay, I'm going to go into this conversation with my husband, we really need to have this talk, and, we've been having this difficulty. The unconscious mind says, oh, it's not safe. Yeah, you can't be heard. So it's like, it stops me from having the conversation. Or
Right.
when we have the conversation, instead of having this calm, intentional conversation, it's like this stuff from the past blows up. He says something, and we wind up in the same old place, leading
Mhm.
to the cycles that repeat. Has anybody had the same conversation with your spouse over and over and over again? Such a normal
Yeah.
thing, right? Because nobody is able to get out of this place of having their unconscious stuff controlling current life, current behavior.
Right. So
So
how do we do that?
we heal it. And
How
this
do
is the
we
kind of,
heal it?
yeah, we can't do it alone.
Okay.
We can't do it alone. Even me as a practitioner, when I know there is something that's stopping me, I can't do it alone because there's parts of it that are, parts of the source that I don't know what they are. And I need another person, another practitioner to guide me in that. And again, even now I'm a NLP master certified practitioner. When I get stuck, I need somebody else to help me because I can't see the pieces that are controlling me from the past. I might
Right.
know they're there, I might know where they came from, and I might not know what it is that causes that to be upset. So, understanding that this is something that you can't do alone. And it needs to be, in my opinion, a technique that works with both the conscious mind and the unconscious mind and brings them together. I have
Hmm.
been working on healing my own stuff for over 30 years. And I
Mhm.
had this experience. I was like, okay, I went to a workshop and I had this great realization. It's like everything's going to be fine. And then the stuff comes back. And I heal it and it comes back, leading to this experiences of hopelessness. Oh, man, I'm always healing. The same old thing just keeps coming back. I'm stuck here forever. And now, with the NLP training that I've done, actually having the feeling, oh, that's what's happening. I heal it, and actual change occurs. So, used to be my fear of bothering people was paralyzing. Need to call people for my business. Pretty normal for an entrepreneur. And it's like, oh, I'm so afraid of bothering people that I just wouldn't make any phone calls. And
Mhm.
this was a real problem. And I was like, what is wrong with me? So I did NLP and I healed this thing about fear of bothering people. Very early in my life, I thought my parents abandoned me. They left me with an aunt and uncle for 3 days. And I thought she wasn't coming back. And I said, okay, I have to take care of myself. And I cannot rely on my mother. I was 6 months old. right? Totally before any logical capacity. And so, in addition to the normal foundation wound, I had this happen very early in my life. And I said, okay, I can't rely on other people. And I didn't realize this until my NLP training. This was one of the things that I didn't realize. My coach helped me see not only do I have to take care of myself, I thought I had to take care of everybody else too,
Mhm.
leading to the caretaking, you know, the people pleasing that was part of my whole life. And so this fear of bothering people was huge because people were both the most important thing, being connected is the most important thing, but it's also the most dangerous thing. So
Yeah.
it led to, oh, I can't call people. They're not going to like me. They're going to abandon me. And so when I healed that, it's like, oh, I can call people. I can actually like calling people. I can call people and be interested in what they want and care about them. Totally changed everything. Something that for
And
my whole life had been impossible. Suddenly it's like, oh, everything changes.
and so with this then, Sandra, a couple times you said, well, I healed that. And it's like, how do you heal it? Is it just continually remembering what it is? And you have an alternative workaround. So, I mean, for example, I have a situation in my life where I have a problem that upsets me every time I encounter it. And what I've
Mm-hmm.
learned to do is see it differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I have little notes on my mirror that remind me
Yes.
that
Yes.
this is what it really is. You are remembering something that never happened. Focus, focus, focus. And over time, that just starts to dissipate as something that becomes problematic for me. Yeah.
Before doing NLP, I mean, early, I was suicidal. I was totally a mess and it was controlling every day. Okay. And then with all of the programs that I took, the Landmark Forum, self-development, healing, counseling, all this stuff, I learned how to manage it. Okay. So just like you said, I have all these notes all over the place. When this comes up, remember that. When this comes up, remember that. And it's great to do that. That's
Mhm.
what enabled me to get to the point where I was. Okay. But still, my behavior is still being controlled by these unconscious things.
All right.
And learning to manage it is good, but it's not enough. It
So
doesn't
what?
act it doesn't actually take it and resolve it. So with NLP, this is
Okay.
why I've become such an advocate of NLP and other techniques that work with the unconscious mind when assisted by another person. It enables you to go back to, for me, 6 months old, right?
Okay.
Go back to that event and heal the trauma and release myself of the trauma.
Okay.
And what this looked like was a session where I was working with another person as part of my training. And, you know, they had me like talk to my mother, say, what I need you to say is, and of course I'm vocalizing it all myself. And here's what I have to say to you. And cry, I was sobbing. I don't know how long I was sobbing. Maybe it was 20 minutes, right? And then it's like it had all emptied out and like time stood still. The colors looked different and the pain in my neck was gone.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, right? Like I actually released all of the stuff. And in NLP, we have releases, things that we do to help you actually release it energetically from from your being, from your body, from your energy field. And then it involves what do you have to learn? Getting the learnings as part of the NLP process. And then it like really changes things. It
So
really is possible.
it's okay. So what I was describing earlier was learning how to manage it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now when we talk about complete healing, we're using this process through NLP where you basically in your mind reenact that trauma, reenact that initial situation and reenact it in a way that it clears whatever trauma you've been holding on to so you can let it go. And then it no longer it feels like magic. It sounds like magic, but it no longer influences your behavior today.
Um, Sometimes it looks kind of like reenacting it, but in some therapeutic models, that you go in and you actually reenact it. That can actually be re-traumatizing.
Okay.
So you go back to it, but you don't necessarily have to see yourself, in that situation. Your
Okay.
unconscious mind knows what you need to be able to heal.
Okay.
And so we allow your unconscious mind to guide the process, right? So part of what my experience of therapy is that sometimes therapy has you go and relive things over and over again.
Yeah.
And it can be re-traumatizing. And in my experience, sometimes people are in counseling like for decades, for the rest of their life, because they're not actually really resolving and healing it. So it might look like going back to that event, but you don't necessarily have to go back and relive it all. It really depends on what your unconscious mind needs you to do.
Okay.
Okay.
So that
So,
makes sense too.
yeah. So in NLP, we say it's like, go back to that time and then what is there to learn? NLP focuses on what are the learnings because the learnings allow you to release. It's like imagine it's all balls of energy,
Hmm.
right? What do you need to learn to be able to release this so that you can be the person you want to be? You can have the goals that you have. So you can take the actions you need to take. So it's no longer there limiting your beliefs, right? Because
Yeah.
all of this leads to nobody hears me. I can't do what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. I am helpless. Nobody wants what I have to offer. That's where all that comes from. It's these beliefs from the past, right? So when you resolve that, free yourself from that, then the beliefs in current time can change. And when something comes up and you can say, oh, that's not true. Who do I want to be? It's easier to make those adjustments. And it reaches the point where the trigger no longer is there or it's no longer as big.
Hmm.
So, for example, I still kind of have this, fear about making phone calls, but I can get myself past it way easier because I realize, you know what? I'm just here to help these people. And I can come from that place rather than, oh, I have to make phone calls, money, right? I no longer have that intense reaction. Used to be when I needed to make phone calls, I'd go to the kitchen and I'd get food
Uh-huh.
as a way to avoid making phone calls. I don't do that anymore. I don't go searching for sweets and crunchy things like I used to because I have learned how to do so the triggers are still there. Managing them is easier.
Yep. Well, I mean, as I think back to where we started this conversation around the whole idea of, how come I know what I need to do, but I just don't do it? How, I can't make myself make that phone call or whatever it is that we're blocked on. It sounds to me like a couple things I've learned. First off, I want to understand that when I'm in those situations and I'm wondering why, it's because more than likely there is some kind of unconscious thing going on in my psyche, and it's probably derived from some sort of, well, it's based in the birthing trauma we begin life with, but at the same
Hmm.
time it's been built up and continues to, like a snowball, get bigger and bigger as it rolls down a hill. Then I have to begin to name what that is. I really need to understand, what was that trauma, and then, like you said, not reenact it, not relive it necessarily, but follow your own internal voice that says, this is what we need. And oh, by the way, this is what we need to learn from that experience to clear.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, there's an inner child self in here
Mhm.
that's feeling this, oh, people don't hear me, people don't see me, people don't listen to me. And it's like, oh, I know you're there. You can take care of yourself. You can give yourself love. You can let yourself, it's like, you know what? It's going to be okay. I know this feels scary, but I will keep you safe. There's an inner child self. I will keep you safe. I, the adult, will make sure everything is okay. You're not going to be abandoned again. I'm not going to abandon myself at this point, right? And it's like, it's all going to be okay. So that enables me to take this action that on its face feels dangerous still.
Mhm.
It's like walking myself through it, managing it is easier, and I get myself to take the action because I don't have a whole vat full of trauma kindling getting set off anymore. I take the intensity of my reactions, make it more manageable, more normal, and I can walk myself through it.
Yeah. And I think in alignment with that is this idea about anger, that
Hmm.
it is okay for me to be angry,
Yes.
right? Because anger, the spectrum of anger, whatever
Hmm.
anger emotion that you are feeling, we judge. And so as I work through whatever this past memory, this past experience has been, it brings anxiety. It may bring anger at how I was put in this position, who did this to me, that kind of thing. That all also needs to be allowed. It needs to not only be allowed, it needs to be welcomed. Because,
Hmm.
like you said, it is our anger that will drive change.
It's information.
Exactly.
It's a signal. It's your unconscious mind saying, hey, there's something here you need to pay attention to. What is it? And you walk, it's like, oh, so why is it I'm angry right now? Oh, well, because this is happening and this is what I'm thinking. It's like, okay, well, so, what do I want to do right now? Do I want to stay angry? Because sometimes it's appropriate to stay angry.
Hmm.
Do I need to communicate with somebody? Do I need to ask for something? What is it that gives me what I need here? And sometimes it's like, oh, you know what? They said this. I'm reacting like that. Oh, do I need to do anything about it? Not really. Sometimes there is no action necessary, and sometimes there is action. So that, oh, this is what I need to do, and I do it, and then the anger can go away.
Right.
So it enables me to be present, current time with what's going on,
Hmm.
instead of reacting from the past. Much more empowering for me. And when an actual action is called for, I'm able to do it in a way that is balanced and healthy.
It makes you responsive versus reactive to life.
Yes.
Yes. And also, this process helps you to love yourself.
Hmm.
Yes. And show compassion and kindness towards you. Right.
Yes. And everybody else. Because, of course, other people do the same thing. So when I can
Mhm.
interact with somebody and I was like, oh, that person flew off the handle, they don't probably have as much training and, skills as I have. Right? So, how do I support them? Because I realize that there is an unresolved child reacting over there. They have their vat full of kindling, so that they have an out of proportion reaction. It's like, oh, I know where that comes from.
Yeah.
How do I help that person feel like they are safe?
Yes. Although I'm sure it's probably a lot easier to see this in other people than it is in ourselves. I can often see it in
All
the
of
other
it,
person. It's
it's
all of us. Yeah.
skills that we have the ability to develop.
Yes. So my last question today, as we start to wrap up, for someone who's listening, who is feeling stuck, who's feeling overwhelmed, what's the first thing? What's the first place that they should begin?
The very first thing is awareness.
Okay.
Oh, I just listened to this podcast with Laureen, and oh, wow, like this thing about, oh, so in the past, I would have felt this and done this. Huh, maybe I can choose something different. The very first thing is that awareness, right?
Okay.
And then, but I have no clue what to do. Oh, well, Lorraine was talking with this woman named Sandra. Maybe I should call her and maybe she can help me
Great. Get some support. Get some
get
help.
some support.
Yes.
Yes,
Because as you said earlier, you can't do this by yourself.
you can't do it alone
Yeah.
because it's not safe, right? If I was coming from the unresolved place of my childhood, which
Hmm.
I was all the way up until last year, right? I'm 60 odd. And it's like, it took me this long to get to the place of actually really healing these things. So don't feel like there's something wrong with you or that, that you're faulty. It's like, no, this is just the way it is. And what do I do to make my life now as good as possible? In
Yes.
control and able to be the way I want to be. Get help.
And I think part of that too, I would say, is you imagine the worst.
Hmm.
So you might think, oh, I have something horrible will come up if I start beginning this work. And so I just think I'm going to go play tennis or I'm going to watch another movie, kind of mentality of let me distract myself until I forget all about it. Whereas the promise of having this full, beautiful, responsive type of life is
Yes.
so great. Focus on that whenever that little fear steps in, to push yourself forward or get angry, as we've talked already. Get angry about why are you living like this? You don't have to live like this anymore. It's time. It's now is the moment to seek that support and help.
There's a really important piece here that your unconscious mind will not open up something that you are not capable of handling.
Love it.
Yes, it might be uncomfortable, it might feel impossible, but your unconscious mind only does it at a rate that it can handle it. Something will not come up into your awareness unless you can handle it.
I believe that.
And so to have faith and trust that,
Hmm.
God and your guidance system will not give you something you can't handle.
Perfect. Well, Sandra, thank you so much for being here today and for being willing to go deeper into this conversation. I do really appreciate the way that you have helped us look at this idea of emotional suppression, not as a weakness or a failure, but really as something we can have compassion around and something that can make sense to us around the patterns that we've been living our lives in and through. I think that, like you said, we begin with awareness, and that perspective alone will bring a lot of relief, and insight into any woman who is listening to her voice inside her, listening to her body. And so I am so grateful for you sharing today your wisdom and insight in this area. To everyone listening or watching, thank you for spending this time with us. I know there are many places that you could place your attention, and I never take it lightly when you choose to be here with us. Thank you. If today's conversation resonated with you, I do encourage you to connect with Sandra Lee. We will include her links and connections in the show notes to this, both the video on YouTube and the audio on Substack. So look for that. And if you are also in a season where something is inside you shifting and you know that there is another version of yourself just waiting to emerge, but you can't yet fully see it, in July, I would invite you to join us for the next chapter summit with a focus on independence after 50. It's a virtual gathering for women navigating identity shifts, relational changes, and the evolving shape of independence in midlife. Together, we will explore what it means to reconnect with yourself, trust your inner authority, and begin living your next chapter more intentionally. You'll see information about that as well in the show notes. And if something in this conversation has brought up something for you, something you've been holding back, suppressing, or quietly carrying, I hope that you will stay curious about it, not immediately push it away or distract yourself with other things. Again, look to the show notes for some resources for you there. Until next time, my friends, take good care of yourself and keep listening to your inner voice, your heart, your soul, and enjoy.